Fox News host Laura Ingraham championed an idea that most people wouldn't associate with the hosts on Fox News. So this is an interesting clip about free speech online.
And yet they say, oh, this is just an algorithm. You're all floating conspiracy theories. But now you got Facebook employees complaining about the monoculture.
This, I think, is very scary. So many conservatives fled to social media to escape the bias of the mainstream media, and now to discover this effort to sort of take people and make them into digital non-persons. I mean, one has to go back to Aldous Huxley or George Orwell to find out this kind of stuff going on. Now, a lot of people say, well, gee, these are private companies. They should be able to do whatever they want. But this is actually not true. If Google or Facebook decided, for example, we're going to shadow ban blacks, or we're going to shadow ban Latinos, these companies would be shut down overnight. They know that they can't do that, and they wouldn't even dare. But apparently with conservatives, they feel that it's okay to have political discrimination, even though I don't see fundamentally the difference here between, say, political discrimination and discrimination on any other basis.
Howie, how big of an issue is this? I mean, I can tell in my radio audience, it blows up the lines. Everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone seems to have an experience with it. I know that seems anecdotal, but I find Bing, by the way, Bing is the best search engine. There's the least bias in Bing. For whatever reason, that's what I've discovered. Howie.
Right. Well, it's a huge issue because social media is the new public square. And Facebook and Twitter both have acknowledged that they have a problem with instances of bias against conservatives. I think the evidence against Google is a little less clear. So President Trump and others on the right are obviously going to speak out about this, because if you don't, you can disappear if you don't show up in the search rankings or in the trending topics or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think government regulation is the answer. So there has to be another way.
Yeah, Molly, we talked about this earlier, that there's a thought that given the enormity of these corporations, and as Howie said and Dinesh pointed out, this is the public square today. This is what the equivalent of what we used to see in the old town square with people with a bullhorn. And so could there be a movement to treat them more like public utilities? So they have some quasi government oversight of these entities, or would that open up a total can of worms, perhaps in the other direction at some point?
I personally am not a fan of regulation as an answer to this situation, but these companies absolutely have sometimes huge market share, percentage of which would make Standard Oil blush. They are cognizant that they are going to make the government want to weigh in. Just because, though, they're not governmental entities does not mean that they aren't threats to free expression.
So that was an interesting segment on Fox News there. Not a comment I make often. But this is something that I've spoken about, and I wish that the left would pick this up as our position. So when we talk about healthcare, everybody says, oh, Medicare for all, that's the way to go. That's the new, well, not even new, it's just the actual left position that's now very popular, and in fact, the overwhelming majority of the country is on that page. I wish on this issue, everybody would agree, regulate Facebook and Twitter and the social media companies like public utilities. Now, I'm not saying it's a total government takeover, because they are private companies. I think they can and should still be private companies, but regulate them like public utilities and make them abide by free speech protections. And other laws would apply too. So you would still have, if somebody commits defamation, you could still have some sort of case and procedure and go through it, and then maybe somebody does end up getting kicked off of the platform as a result of that. But I think the default should be, this is the new public square, and we should regulate them like public utilities. And if you think about it, really what my position is here is the same as net neutrality. Now, Laura Ingraham is a disgusting hypocrite, because when it came to net neutrality, she was 100% with Donald Trump, 100% with Ajit Pai, totally in favor of letting the companies do whatever they want to do. If they want to slow down websites, they could slow down websites, because, hey, baby, free market, you get to do whatever you want. It's not the government's job to keep everything totally open and equal. So she was on the wrong side of that. But the crazy thing is, what's going to happen as a result of net neutrality? Whoever can't pay their bribe to the internet service provider is going to be deranked. And there are going to be a lot of conservative sites that get hurt as a result of getting rid of net neutrality. But Laura Ingraham was cheering the repeal of net neutrality. So she's too stupid to understand the consequences of the policies that she's advocating for. Well, now at least she came around on this topic, and she recognizes, because there have been some high-profile examples of conservatives who've gotten the raw deal in this front. She's like, oh, goodness, well, maybe we should have some sort of free speech protections and treat it like a public utility. Yes, that's what I've been saying all along. That's what many people on the left have been saying. But I wish that this was a bigger position on the left, and I find that the only reason it's not is because every now and then the target of the censorship is somebody who the left doesn't like. So when it was Alex Jones, a lot of people on the left were defending that. But the problem is they weren't understanding that they're buying into the wrong premise. Because it really has nothing to do with Alex Jones. The question is, do you think these companies should have the ability to, without any process, without any transparency, just take down whoever they want, no questions asked? Now, my answer to that question is, hell no. Hell no. But a lot of people said, well, yes, because Alex Jones is so bad. But you just gave them everything they needed to start taking down people on the left, and that's already happening. It's already happening that people on the left are being censored. So the problem is you bought into the wrong premise. I think that it should be treat them like public utilities, have free speech protections. And listen, under that system, maybe it is true that after Alex Jones goes through his defamation case, they say, hey, he's guilty, and then they kick him off all the social media platforms. Well, that's a different situation. You had the process, and then it was like, okay, well, he did defamation. What do you want us to do? The penalty for that is you're going to be off these platforms. That'd be fine. But we're not even doing that. People were cheering without having a process that happening, and that's crazy. You should have a process. You should regulate these like public utilities. And it's a shame to me that now the people who are coming closer to making that argument are people on the right on Fox News. Granted, they're doing it for all the wrong reasons. Because they feel, oh, if it was somebody on the left, a prominent person on the left who got deplatformed, would Laura Ingraham be doing this segment? No, because she's a partisan hack. But they are accidentally perhaps stumbling on the right position, but not even really, because you saw how they're hesitating there at the end. You're like, well, hey, maybe, but the government regulation isn't the answer. Yes, it is. It is the answer. This is the public square now. Regulate it like a public utility, and I hope everybody adopts that position.